WIBA and Ask the Experts with Wisconsin Capital Management online, wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Great website. If you haven't had a chance yet to check it out, definitely want to do that when you get into the office this morning and learn more about Wisconsin Capital Management. Again, that website, wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Not only can you get to know the guys at Wisconsin Capital Management, Tom, Nathan, and the whole team, you can also set up an appointment as well right from the website, wiscap.com. I mentioned Tom and Nathan. Of course, Tom, Chartered Financial Analyst with Wisconsin Capital Management. Tom, how you doing this morning?
Oh, it's great to be here, Sean. Thank you.
Great to have you along. Nathan Plumb as well, certified trust advisor as well as executive MBA. Nathan, how you doing this week?
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is one of our favorite topics.
It is a great topic. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the 529, the 529 plans and what they are, and a little bit about timing. Let's kind of get in a little bit about this subject, and it really affects just about every family with children at some point. Of course, the importance of saving for education. Tom, Nathan, thanks for joining me. Let's talk a little bit about this. Of course, a significant issue. There's a lot of different methods, though, when it comes to this stuff. You think that the 529 plan is such an effective and flexible tool. Let's talk about why it is and what exactly a 529 plan is, Nathan.
Yeah, a 529 plan is like a Roth IRA, but for education. You put after-tax dollars in, and the money grows tax-free. And as long as you use it for a qualified education expenses, you can pull it out tax-free too. So every state sponsors one, but you're not limited to your own stakes plan, and there's actually no income limits involved.
Interesting. Real quick about that. So as I sit here in beautiful Madison, Wisconsin, if I were to look in, let's say, Washington State, for example, could I in theory, as you say that, or am I misunderstanding that? Could I in theory invest through the Washington State 529 plan?
Yeah, it's if you're living in Wisconsin and you wanted to use the 529 plan in Washington, you could definitely do that, but you would actually lose the Wisconsin tax deduction that would go with that. So through for them to be eligible for the tax credit, you'd have to use something that would be either through the state program, which is called EdVest, or you have to use something called Tomorrow Scholar to get the benefit. So, but if you like the investments choices within the state of Wisconsin and you don't care about the tax credit, yeah, you could definitely do that. So you're not limited to that.
Really fascinating stuff this morning as we talk with Chartered Financial Analyst Tom Plumb, as well as Nathan Plumb, Certified Trust Advisor with Wisconsin Capital Management, online, wiscap.com. That's wiscap.com. That's WISCAP.com. So what exactly, Nathan, counts as, we talk about that qualified education expense, what exactly are those? What counts?
Well, they're a very broad amount of things. So since they kind of revised the rule, you can do it for not just colleges, but you can use it for trade schools. You can even use it for like high school or even preschool. So it just has to be a qualified expense. And so every education provider has a federal code. And as long as they have a federal code, usually that's what you can do. So, but things that you can't do, or you can't say, you can't expense your transportation to school and back. You can't pay for furniture in a dorm room or posters or artwork like that. But, as long as it has like books, tuition, things that really help your education, you can go for it.
Oh, that is fascinating. Tom, I know you've got some insight into this as well, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Now, besides the flexibility and all of that Nathan laid out, the other two big things are the flexibility and the control. Control is that the parent or the account owner, whoever set it up, or whoever is named as the custodian under that agreement, controls the account. So if someone doesn't turn 18 and all of a sudden have access unlimited to this, it has to go for those expenses, but it can be controlled by the person who's named as the control person. And then the other point is the flexibility, because if that beneficiary doesn't use it for a qualified person, can actually transfer it to another beneficiary.
Wow, that's powerful. As you know, I think as we've probably got a bunch of kids riding around with mom and dad, or maybe their grandparents this morning, they're getting all excited, going, "That's my money." The reality is, as a parent, grandparent, you have some control, don't you, Tom?
Oh, you sure do. I mean, so you have these tax advantages and you have this discipline. We think about it as like a greenhouse for your
Mm.
money. It grows protected from taxes until you harvest it for your education. Plus, in many states like Wisconsin, as Nathan said, you can actually get a state tax deduction when you use their specific plan, up to a limit, of course. But it's in Wisconsin right now, it's currently over $5,000 that you'd be able to deduct for your state income tax preparation.
Talking this morning with Tom Plumb and Nathan Plumb, of course, with Wisconsin Capital Management online, whizcap.com. That's whiz, WISCAP.com. Talking this week about those 529 plans, some of the great benefits to using them, some of the flexibility. I think a lot of times people aren't aware of some of the different things that they offer with these plans. So it sounds to me like, and Nathan, I gotta say, if I'm hearing this right, it sounds like families get a double benefit here as they get the tax-free growth and sometimes a state tax break. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. In Wisconsin, contributions to EdVest or Tomorrow's Scholar program are deductible up to the number is $5,130 per beneficiary for if you're filing jointly in 2025. Again, you can go out of state or you could open an account at Schwab, but you might lose that deduction, and you probably would. So, but the real benefit is that it grows tax free. So it grows, has the power of compounding. And so it's really a great way to save for not only a child or someone starting, but even if you're an adult learner as well. So there's really, you shouldn't just think this is just for young people.
Oh, that's an interesting aspect to us. I think a lot of us, as we get older, start looking at just kind of expanding our knowledge base and looking for great tools. That sounds like it could be a great one as well. I don't know that a lot of people were aware of that. Of course, talking this morning with Nate and Tom Plumb of Wisconsin Capital Management online, whizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Great website and resource to learn more about Wisconsin Capital Management, how they can help you. And of course, if you are looking to set up an appointment, you can do that right online. The website whizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. You know, one of the things I think big fears that parents have is hurting their kids' chances for financial aid. How exactly then, when it comes to these 529 plans, how do they show up on those aid forms, Nathan?
That's a great question. So when you fill out something called the FAFSA, that's FAFSA, and that stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. A parent-owed 529 plan is treated as a parental asset. So when you're filling out FAFSA, what's money in your child's name is 1-for-1 counts against you, and if it's in the parent's name, it's a ratio down. So it's only about 5.6% of its value is counted if it's in the family member's name, like yourself, and that'd be the 529 plan. Compared to if you just gave the student a check and said, go with it, that would count up to 20% against financial aid. So that's why having the 529 in the parent's name is beneficial, and it's it's most aid-friendly way to save. And we try to be timely on the show too. So these forms open up on October 1st. And it's a first come, first serve. And really spread the word. There's no income limits on this, and you can qualify for a lot of different things. So especially if you are really looking for money to enhance your education, this is timely information for you.
Very much so. Really good stuff this morning. Talking with Nathan and Tom Plumb of Wisconsin Capital Management. So when should families actually then, Tom, fill out that FAFSA form? When should they be doing that stuff?
Well, Nathan mentioned that the deadline or the opening starts October 1st. So that's one of the reasons why on September 30th, we're talking about this. And then you can also file each and every year.
Oh.
So it's important to make your first filing, but then also to continue those filings.
Oh, fantastic. Great information. What and again, super timely for sure. Definitely hope folks are catching that. And by the way, speaking of catching things, I know obviously in the morning, a lot of us step away from our car, maybe grab a cup of coffee or dropping the kids or grandkids off at school. Maybe you missed part of the program. Maybe you want to share the show. Maybe you want to listen back to something you heard to make sure you heard it well. Of course, you head on over to whizcap.com. You can listen back to this and previous shows' podcasts. Again, that website, WISCAP.com. Also available up at WIBA.com in the Ask the Experts segment. This is, of course, Ask the Experts with Wisconsin Capital Management. Mention the website, whizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. So now we've talked about kind of all the great benefits of a 529. What about what's inside, how to invest in them? We're going to get the details from Tom and Nathan. We will do that next as Ask the Experts with Wisconsin Capital Management continues right here on 1310 WIBA. 1310 WIBA and Ask the Experts with Wisconsin Capital Management. Hanging out this morning talking with Tom Plumb of Wisconsin Capital Management. He is a chartered financial analyst. And Nathan Plumb with Wisconsin Capital Management. He is a certified trust advisor with an executive MBA. Before we start talking about kind of getting into investing, what to put inside these 529s, real quick, Nathan, in that last segment, we were talking about when to start with the FSA. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. There is other timing as well as far as where your kids are in their schooling career, isn't there?
Yeah, so FAFSA, usually you want to do this starting in October of your junior year of high school. So mostly people finish their high school 1 year. So that'd be the majority of the people that have. So some people finish early, like you hear of these, football players that want to get into spring camps. So, they might do it earlier. But essentially, you want to start this in October of your junior year in high school. This is when you really should go at that. And if you don't know exactly what you should qualify, you should go to financialaid.gov, and they can give you some parameters. That's a government website with a lot of information.
A great tool there. And so then as we talk about this area about, the opening of that 529, Tom, how should folks then invest their money?
Well, Sean, as we've said before, some of these plans actually have a setup where they have a cookie cutter, if you will, and they basically have what's called an age base or target date portfolios, and they automatically shift you from stocks, which we know can be more volatile, to bonds as your child gets closer to college. And it really works out pretty well for some families, but maybe not all families.
Nathan, you want to add something there?
Yeah, so I guess our experience in the real world, that since education expenses have really been subject to inflation much higher than the general economy, that find that people just pick like a low cost S&P 500 index or a NASDAQ index really produces better outcomes in real world accounts. So I actually, you don't really have to use the default. I know that it's the first one picked for you, but I guess in real experience, it's best to pick from the menu.
That is really good guidance, really good advice this morning as we talk with Nathan and Tom Plumb with Wisconsin Capital Management, the website whizcap.com. That's WISCAP.com. So taking off from that, Nathan, you could be more aggressive then if you start early?
Yeah, exactly. So, investing is all about time value money, with time being the most important factor in that formula. So again, if you're a toddler, you should probably go 100% in something like the S&P 500 index, which is all stocks, for at least probably 10 to 12 years. And then if you're getting a little nervous before education, you could start pulling that back into putting some more bonds or get that more solid if you got the number that you liked.
And Tom, I know you're nodding. This is definitely something you concur with, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes that's where working with an advisor can really help you customize your allocation and make sure that you're not just taking the default, which may be the best for the average person, but might not be your best.
really great guidance and advice. And we're talking a little bit about kind of putting these plans into action as we talk this morning with Tom and Nathan Plumb of Wisconsin Capital Management, the website WisCap.com. That's WASCAP.com. So Nathan, what's kind of your advice and guidance to parents or grandparents that are listening this morning?
Yeah, so initially when this conversation usually comes up is usually when a parent or grandparent has a new, parent or grandchild.
Mm.
And the thing is just to, again, and it's a common theme in the show, but just to start, right? So, even like $50 or $100 a month, like if you especially do that automatic investing, that's talking about the magic of compounding. So if you were investing that money, hopefully it will double every, about 7, 8 years. And, so if you like taking a real world example, so if you started with like a $5,000 initial contribution and you added $100 a month for, 12 years, that would grow to $31,000, with a 6% return and $53,000 in 18 years. So I think the key part of real success is A, starting, and then B, just automatic your investments. You can change those up and down depending on what things are going in your life, but it's a pick an investment strategy you can stick with, and if you review with people like us like once a year, and there's any tax updates like that we can take advantage of, we can definitely help you.
It's funny as my son and I over the summer on a road trip driving out east. He's become a bit of a roller coaster junkie, and so we were going to a bunch of amusement parks and got some downtime in the car. And I know Tom, you and I had talked a while ago about compounding and what a great tool it is. I had him get out his phone and I said put in there. I said there's calculators out there. I said put in there. Imagine you invested $1,000 20 years ago in the S&P 500. Where would it be today? And it was amazing. He's 13 and his eyes lit up and he's like, oh my gosh, what a what an investment that would have been. And I've got to say, as we talk about this stuff, reaching out to Wisconsin Capital Management, you guys can really help people with this, can't you?
Absolutely, Sean. You think about it, each plan might have a little bit of intricacies, but we can help people compare those plans, choose the investments, whether or not it's an S&P index fund or something else, but we can integrate the education savings into a family's overall financial plan. And listeners, of course, can find us at wiscap.com.
That's WISCAP.com. I can't highlight and emphasize enough what a great website and a great tool WisCap.com is. If you are looking for more information about Wisconsin Capital Management, of course, we're talking this morning about 529 plans. Definitely a place to start, WisCap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Of course, as we close out this week's show, we've got a lot of great advice on 529 plans, what a powerful tool they are, and of course, getting that understanding of how they work and how they can really help families get ahead. Tom, Nathan, thank you guys both so much for breaking this down. And you guys, thank you for taking the time this morning.
Well, our pleasure, Sean. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks for having us, and make sure if you're a junior in high school, start looking at those FAFSA forms.
And that's more fun than it sounds, right?
Exactly.
That's for sure. Thank you both, and of course, thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget, this is an important thing. If you miss any part of the program, you can always listen back, catch the podcast, listen back at the website. We'll be doing it again next week with Ask the Experts, and of course, with more ways to grow and protect your wealth. Again, that website, WisCap.com. That's WISCAP.com. Great starting point for all of this information. Again, that's WisCap.com, WISCAP.com. More of Madison in the Morning comes your way next, right here on 1310 WIBA.